Happy holidays. Yes, this is a pun. I am so sorry. I could have started off like this. But welcome back to the Animal Crossing Ships and Builds series. After a very long break, I've got lots of ships and builds to share with you today, but I really wanted to make it very special since the holiday season is right around the corner. I've got some festive and wintry ships and builds to share with you today. So I hope you're excited for this very special episode after a very long time of not visiting our Animal Crossing world. So let's get right into this. Just listen to those jingle bells. If you listen close enough, you might think, maybe, just maybe, we found the legendary North Pole. And that's because we have. This is the North Pole. I have genuinely built this to be our very first showcase here today. This is between a ship of Hans and Lionel. Hans, who I imagine is a little snow yeti that lived in these once very remote lands in a very humble abode, was found by Lionel and his crew of magical elves as they tried to find a spot hidden enough from the world that they could create the magic of Christmas without anyone finding them. And I imagine these two have been partners ever since and have created the most wonderful magical place on Earth. I mean, you tell me if any other character in Animal Crossing can make a better Santa than Lionel. Change my mind. As you can see, the workshop is all decked out, obviously, for the holidays. They obviously spare no expense when it comes to the decorations. This is the most maximalist, most intense, detailed build I think I've done outdoors ever. And it was especially challenging because it was on a kind of a surface that I couldn't really do very much with, so luckily my patterns were carrying me throughout this entire build. As you can see, the sleigh is on a very special runway, ready to go. We've got the toy factory in the background. This is actually from the inside poking outward. There's a lovely conveyor belt full of toys that goes from the inside of the building all the way out here to the sleigh with Lionel, who is getting everything ready for this lovely season this year. Overall, I think I totally nailed the color palette with the golds, the reds, the greens, against the lovely icy backdrop. I think this is genuinely one of the strongest builds I've done when it comes to maximalism, because I am definitely more of a minimalist. This was a huge step out of my personal comfort zone, but I think I got that. I really do. And if you think this is impressive, wait until you see the inside. This is crazy. For the first floor of this build, I went for a gingerbread house themed post office for Santa's workshop. When it comes to Christmas themed stories, I don't see this often enough. I don't see the post office side, because nothing's more important than sending out your letter to Santa of what you want for Christmas, and Santa fulfilling all of your wishes and hopes and dreams. Hans and Lionel are working very, very hard right now to make sure everybody's wishes are fulfilled and that all the good little kids are rewarded for their best behavior throughout the year. This build is jam-packed with details. Blink and you'll miss it. We've got cookies, of course, for Santa, so that way while they're working, they have plenty of fuel to keep on doing their best work, along with the list that Santa will, in fact, be checking twice. Don't you worry. They've got candles, they've got letters stacked galore. And it's a little bit of a mess because this is the most busiest time of the year for them, and I do apologize, you two, for hosting a tour while you're trying to get your best work done, but I appreciate you allowing us into your space so we can check it all out and see what it's like during the most authentic time of the year and allow us to spread even more joy throughout the season. So yes, there is boxes, there is papers, there is so much going on. They've got stockings galore, and I really wanted this to look like a gingerbread house, so I tried to make the walls look like graham crackers with little sprinkles with a line of frosting. I tried to make all of the lights look like candy too. I really tried to hone in on the fact that this is just all a very magical place built from literal candy, hopes, dreams, wishes, and that this is the magical post office where all of the children's letters are fulfilled. Upstairs is a whole other type of factory. While I had the toy factory outside, I really wanted there to be a candy and or cookie factory on the inside. So I made this very small, very humble little cookie factory here where they bake all of the sweet treats that come in your stockings and presents all throughout Christmas. I thought it'd be so cute if this was like Hans and Lionel's favorite spot together. They even have milk out for the cookies and everything. Like, they are way more bakers at heart than they give themselves credit for, I think. As you can see, we've got all the ingredients out ready to go. I'd like to think that they like to experiment with different things. Oh, look, they're pulling out the recipe book right now, being like, I wonder what we should do this year. What was big with the kids last year? Oh, yes, the snickerdoodles. Let's do those again. Like, I imagine they coordinate very well when it comes to this very chaotic time. Oh, Lionel's already putting more of the cookies into the sleigh. Okay, good, good. They're working very hard, as you can see. They don't just have Christmas themed stuff, they also have Yule celebrations back there and everything. I imagine they are respectful of all different kinds of cultures and people. Even though they are very much Christmassy spirited in their own hearts, they do respect others and try to make sure they're as inclusive as possible, which is really cool. And I think we can all agree that everyone loves cookies, so this is probably their favorite spot to be. And again, I really wanted to go crazy on the gingerbread house aesthetic, so much that I put all of these little clocks around the border of the room to kind of make it look like peppermints along the walls. And honestly, I think I'm kind of low-key a genius for this. I think it looks so freaking cute. It actually does look like a gingerbread house. But if I failed, you could let me know. It won't hurt my feelings. I had to try very hard, okay? Look, I'm very creative, but this Animal Crossing is only so limited, okay? I think I did my darndest. That concludes the first build, so let's go ahead and let's draw these two together in a speed art. For these two, I went for the most adorable little pose. I really thought it would be adorable to lean more heavily into the cookie baking side of the build, and I wanted them to be baking together, but having like cookie dough all over themselves. Like, it'd just be so stinking cute. So I went for that as the pose. It was Lionel and Hans. Literally, Lionel makes the most perfect Santa Claus. I do not care. He's got the mustache, he's got the big fluffy white mane, and when you put little glasses on him, it is just perfect, okay? Even the outfit he just comes with is very Santa coded. Like, this man's was born to be Santa Claus. And I just freaking love the adorable idea that Hans was this once very lonesome Yeti living up in the cold mountains all by his lonesome, until Lionel and all of the helpful elves came to the North Pole and decided to settle down and create toys and magic for Christmas. I feel like Hans was probably in like a genuinely dark place, if not literally, but also emotionally, mentally. And when everybody came up north and he had a chance to contribute to something to bringing joy and whimsy into children's lives, I feel like it just sparked the warmth in his heart that needed to be ignited this entire time. And I feel like he just has fully embraced that. And like, while he might look like this big scary Yeti, he's actually the biggest, sweetest, softest boy, and I love that very, very much. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, queer elders are so important, and I really value and treasure the stories that they bring, because there's just so much history with older characters, especially older queer characters. It's sometimes very comforting to look up to queer elders and just know that it'll be okay, that eventually you'll figure it all out, and that you can essentially make it that long. This isn't the first old gay couple that I have in this series, and it will not be the last, because we need more queer elders, especially in representation and media. Like, we definitely need more of that for sure. And nothing is more comforting than these two grandpas who are just so holly and jolly and love to bring joy all across the world. And look at them and their little gingerbread house baking cookies together, being the sweetest ever. I just think this is so freaking adorable, and I just had to include it for this special holiday edition episode of our Ships and Build series. Our next ship and build takes us to a lovely little riverside abode that has been recently turned into a ice cream shop. This place belongs to Bertha and Tutu. I headcanon them to be lesbian moms, and I'd like to think that Bertha is the mother of our other character from another one of our ships and builds, Meringue, one of our little cafe girlies. And so Tutu is the stepmom in this scenario, and I adore that very much, because I think that's a really cool dynamic we don't get to see very often around the holidays, is blended families. So this is going to be our blended family story here. So the outside of their shop is dedicated to a very cozy and warm spot, in case for some reason you want to eat your ice cream out in the cold. I mean, you do you. Some people really do genuinely enjoy that. But also I think it makes for a great spot during the warmer season as well to go out and have ice cream outside. So this is kind of the lovely little spot for that. And aside from being decorated with trees and bushes and all kinds of plants galore, there isn't really too terribly much to the outside. I really wanted to keep it simple, but the inside is where it gets very complex very quickly. So when you first walk into their abode, it is actually just their house. The ice cream shop is actually in the basement, but I'd like to think that these two girlies are working really hard right now because it is the holiday season. They know their daughter Meringue is going to be coming home for the holidays very soon, and so I imagine they're very busy getting everything cleaned, cooking, and preparing everything to be just perfect for their little family holiday celebration together here. So their living room is bustling with activity. They have puzzles, they have books, they have cartoons on, which I think is really silly. Because, like, honestly, these two girlies are so young at heart. Like, if you run an ice cream store, you're gonna be fun forever. I don't care. They definitely are so fun to be around. I don't imagine that if you run an ice cream shop, you're gonna be boring and mean and grumpy. Like, there's no way. They're cheerful sunshine, and they watch their cartoons, and they have no shame in that. They also have a little pet birdie that I imagine is like the star of the show during the warmer seasons. They keep the bird upstairs during the colder months just because birds are really sensitive and with temperature changing and everything, so they have to keep her nice and toasty up here so that way she doesn't get too cold in the very icy basement that has all the ice cream in it. And in Tutu's little poster, she's actually a cheerleader, which I think is so cute. So I decided that would definitely be like her backstory. Like in high school, she was a cheerleader, so she has her memorabilia up there, and that's probably how she met Bertha. I imagine they met in high school, but they didn't really like become high school sweethearts or anything. They had other relationships that kind of fell through. They had other life events, and I imagine they're coming together now in like kind of like 50s, 60s age range, like definitely a lot older in life, but have finally found each other and have been like, oh my goodness, we were meant to be together all along. And I think that is just a really cool relationship dynamic I never get to see very often. They've got a very old retro kitchen. They got the old phone on the wall. They got the cuckoo clock that goes off every hour. They have the old cups and plates, all the antiques. They are just getting everything in tip-top shape. They got all of the fresh fruit and juice, and they've got a fresh pie baked warm out of the oven from Meringue. Of course, where do you think Meringue got it from? Her love of cooking, the wanting to have a cafe and have ice cream and sweets galore. And of course they do have a picture of their daughter. And also Carmen is up there too, because Carmen is just as much part of the family. Carmen is Meringue's girlfriend, so I think that's really cute. And in the happy home, Bertha's design was actually based off of basket weaving. So you'll find lots of hidden little baskets around this build, because I like to think that that's what Bertha works on in her free time, is making baskets, which is so cool. But they also have a little room dedicated to Meringue. I imagine this is Meringue's little childhood room with all of her things still in it, which is just so sweet. This moment of nostalgia frozen in time. Nothing screams home for the holidays than coming home to your childhood room that has just been freshly dusted, the bed has just been washed. Oh, it's just so cozy, and I'm sure Meringue will just appreciate it so much, and Carmen's probably gonna be giggling the entire time, being like, oh my gosh, your stuff is so cute when you're a baby. I imagine this is a baby picture of Meringue too, like right there, that Carmen's gonna be like, oh my gosh, baby Meringue, you know. I think it's just gonna be like the most sweet and wholesome family get together, and I love that for these two girlies and their daughter so very much. I kept the anticipation long enough. Let's go check out their basement and this really awesome ice cream shop they're hiding down here. Down in the basement is a very, very chill, and I mean practically frozen, if not actually literally made of ice that they have carved out themselves, entire basement full of ice cream, cakes, cookies, sweets, everything you can imagine you could ever need for this season. I went with a pink, teal, and white color palette because that seems to be like the both of them's colors. Like Tutu and Bertha both have this color palette going on, but I also headcanon that Tutu is trans, and I just really enjoy putting pride flags in my builds and incorporating the colors that represent their identities in the actual builds, which is just so cool. And yes, by cool I mean everything is literally chilly. Everything's freezing. I put all of these really awesome frosty effects all over everything because I genuinely think that this is made of ice. Like, they literally made an igloo out of their basement, and that's kind of like the touristy kind of appeal and how they get people to kind of come in. Even during the colder weather, everybody just bundles up and comes and checks it all out. And I like to think Bertha is just as good of a chef as Meringue, and that's where Meringue gets it from, is her mom. And there's all these really wonderful treats and things scattered about. And oh, I just really love how this turned out. The concept is just so fun. And I think that this build is definitely one of my strongest ones yet. All of that aside, let's go ahead and hop into the speed paint of these two. Now, you know I was gonna go with the trope of sharing a milkshake when it came to these two. Obviously, like, it's one of the most silly, most iconic things for a ship to do is to share a milkshake. So yeah, Bertha and Tutu are gonna be sharing a milkshake. Get over it. And yeah, it's gonna have hot fudge and a cherry on top. And it's all gonna be pretty pink and icy and snowy and adorable, of course. And you know, while I was drawing this, I had originally headcanon that Tutu is trans femme, and I was like, yes, this is beautiful, this is perfect. I see this no other way. But honestly, the way that I was drawing Bertha, I was like, oh my gosh, is she trans femme too? Are they just like T for T again? I love this. I love T for T ships so much. Obviously, this is like my kryptonite. So yeah, I think that upon drawing them and getting to know them a little better through the speed art, I think genuinely Bertha's also trans. So I love this. Like, this is just awesome, dude. Just a couple of trans girlies running their little ice cream shop. Nothing could be sweeter, dude. And I freaking love their story that they met in high school, probably before they were both out, so it's like super embarrassing and everything, and it's just like a really hard time to look back on. But they both have a very similar experience and can relate, obviously, in both being trans. And I feel like they find a lot of comfort in that. And I feel like they're always trying new things together and expressing their femininity in such a safe and wonderful environment that they probably never had previously. As I said before, I really do think that Bertha was in a previous relationship with whoever may be the other parent of Meringue, and just finally is having the chance to express herself and find herself with a trans partner. I feel like this is just like the most peak T for T energy ever. And also, again, just older queers. Like, I love stories of middle-aged queers figuring out who they are. Like, you don't have to figure out everything when you're super young. And I think it's really awesome that Bertha has a second chance at life and just starting all over again with a new relationship and everything. And she still has a great relationship with her daughter and is fully supportive of her daughter being a lesbian. Like, it's just like a big happy queer family, and I think that's just so cool. We don't see it enough. I feel like Tutu figured herself out a little bit sooner. Like, obviously in high school, I feel like Tutu had it figured out more towards like the latter half of her high school years. That's why she joined the cheerleading team and everything. I feel like she began her transition really early, and Bertha's doing it a lot later. But they both support each other in it no matter what, and I think that's really freaking adorable. So I kept their outfits pretty pink, and obviously I think their base outfits are already pink, so I just kind of based it off of that. And made the background nice and blue and icy with some snowflakes and everything. And look at these two sharing their little milkshake without a worry in the world. Probably just finished cleaning up to invite their family over for the holidays and are celebrating with a milkshake. Like, how sweet are they, dude? Haha, sweet, no pun intended. Actually, it is intended. Pun fully intended. In the same vein of family relationships, I have another lovely ship and build here today that I like to call a citrus abode. This is for Rolf and Pearl. I think Rolf is Pearl's dad, and in this case, I'd like to think that this is a single parent and or divorced parent kind of relationship we have here with Pearl and her dad, and I like to think this is their little getaway spot that they come to every single holiday season. It's like a very remote property in the middle of the woods with a freezing river coursing by. There's little pieces of history here and there with ruined columns and lanterns they keep lit. And of course, a very tranquil hot spring. And oh boy, Rolf is a big camping guy, and I imagine that this is where they go to camp. They bundle up against the cold, watch the aurora borealis at night, and sleep under the stars as the cold ice is on the outside of their tent and they're nice and cozy. And I just think this is just such a fun tradition that they do. I'd like to imagine that Pearl and Rolf celebrate Yule, something a little bit more ancient and traditional with their celebrations. They probably perform some rituals and celebrate in very nature-oriented ways, which is why they want to kind of get away to their humble little house in the woods. They really need that time to reconnect with nature. I imagine Pearl probably primarily lives with her mom and gets to see her dad every now and then, and this is something they really look forward to spend quality time together. I imagine they're actually really close. So let's check out the inside. This is actually a micro build. There's just something about tiny houses that genuinely physically bring people together, and I really love the entire concept of tiny houses, so that is what this build is. It is literally one of the smallest ones I've ever done, and I've managed to fit 3 different rooms in, so let's dive into all the details. First off, I got a whole bathroom in here. They like to take their baths in the hot springs outside, so this is really truly all we need, and it's perfect, and I'm so proud that I got that crammed in here, along with their big cozy table. Oh yes, I think that that is just exactly what they need, especially since they mostly come here during the winter. And of course I got some flowery cups here. I genuinely think Rolf is more of a flowery guy than we're giving him credit for. I think in the spring that is something he really likes to do. Of course he's like a camping guy and likes to go fishing and everything, but he's not as rough and tough as you might think. Like, he's got a soft side. I think that's really sweet. And I decided, since literally the clothes they're wearing right now is their defaults, I decided to include some dark blues in this because the oranges and the whites and the dark blues with the browns, everything is just, oh my gosh, the color palette is just on point. Color palette is just beautiful. I just can't. It's just so wonderful. And of course I kept everything kind of orange themed because they have like an orange orchard around their house, which is really cool. They got an orange pie going there, an old TV, which I imagine is the only technology they have out here. And I bet it doesn't even get signal. I bet they only watch like old DVDs or VHS or something on it. And I wanted this house to feel very lived in. So they have dishes in the sink. They have magnets on the fridge with memories posted up there. They have a meal being cooked in the background. Like, I really just wanted it to feel like they're home. They're home for the holiday, and I love that very much. They've got a very simple sleeping space, of course, with radiators and warmers and everything. I imagine Pearl isn't like the hugest fan of the snow, but we'll put up with it anyways because she just loves this tradition so much. And they've got some traditional art and their favorite music up on the album up on the wall and everything. Like, everything is just so well loved and used, and everything's super practical because that's what tiny living is kind of all about. And I think that they have a lovely little Yule celebration here in drying out fruits and hanging them up and decorating in that kind of way, being in touch with nature and spending quality time together as father and daughter. One thing I think I totally forgot to add onto this build that would have made this build 100% better is a telescope or some kind of observatory. Like, realizing that they're out in the middle of the woods, they probably get to see the most amazing stars and aurora borealis and all of these amazing seasonal changes, especially during the winter. So I feel like there's nothing better than bundling up and going out and gazing up at the sky and feeling so small. And I feel like Rolf would want to pass that joy on to Pearl as his daughter and just instill a love of the sky in her. And so I wanted to include a telescope in this little piece for the speed art because I realized that definitely should have been in this build 100%, and so we're adding it now. And so I have Rolf kind of pointing up at the sky, probably giving a lecture, explaining all the different constellations and what can be seen at this time of the year and blah blah blah. Like, he's just very knowledgeable on everything when it comes to nature. I feel like Pearl is just eating this up. Pearl, I imagine, is a young adult, maybe even college student, and I would like to headcanon that maybe she wasn't like super close with her parents in her childhood, but when she became an adult, she became very close with them. And realizing that they have so much wisdom. And I feel like during her college years, she finally comes to the realization of, oh wow, I should probably be asking about stories and asking about history and all of their wisdom and everything they've learned throughout their life. So that way I can do better in my young adult life. So I think it's really awesome that there's like this generational transition of knowledge going on between these two during their yearly vacation to their little home in the middle of nowhere, like their little holiday tradition. I think it's so special that they get to go out, just the two of them, and spend maybe a weekend together being with each other, which is the most important thing. And for Pearl's little outfit, I decided to give her a little beanie that was shaped like an orange. Since everything in this build was about oranges and citrus fruits, I thought that would just be so stinking cute. And I kept to their blues, of course, because that was a really awesome part of this build, was all the blues with the oranges and the yellows. And this is the final product of a loving father and his daughter spending some quality time this holiday season watching the stars. Isn't this just so sweet? I love this story so much. Y'all mind if I get a little self-indulgent here for a second? I had to make a build for my favorite villager of all time. That girly is Vesta. Vesta is, and has always been, my favorite villager from Animal Crossing ever. She has been with me since GameCube days. I've had her on every single game possible for Animal Crossing, and I've adored her every single time. And because she's my favorite character, I of course had to kind of align her to myself in the sense that I headcanon her to be a row ace. Just like myself. And I also headcanon that she doesn't celebrate any kind of holiday or anything because that's extremely valid. Even if you don't celebrate anything during the winter season, that is totally valid, and I wanted you to be seen in this Ships and Build series just as much as myself. April Ace people also need to be represented, and that's why she's also included in this series too. Vesta is a girly after my own heart and runs a library. Yes, I tried to make this like a public library. We've got cars with bicycles parked outside. We've got a little reading area here, maybe with like a book exchange going on, a book return, and everything. Like, I went all out on making sure this looked very much like a professional library for the public to use. And I like to think that this is something Vesta keeps up with, and that's a way that she gives back to her community all seasons long, every single one of them, not just around the holidays. Let's dive into this build that I hilariously call Books Are Better, which is just the Arrow Ace mantra. Welcome to the tranquil space that is Vesta's library. I really just wanted this to be a place where everybody could pause for a moment during the busiest time of the year and really reflect on what winter truly is supposed to be about. Winter is meant to be a time of hibernation. It's meant to be a time of rest, of peace. And yet, capitalism and holidays and all of this chaos has us completely and utterly distracted and distraught most of the time. And it is just the total opposite of what it is truly meant to be. So I built this library as a cozy getaway. So this is kind of the spot where I imagine many people will come, whether they celebrate, whether they don't, whether they just need a break, or whether this is just the whole way they want to spend their entire winter, curled up by a fireplace, reading a book, escaping into a lovely world for just even a moment. That is what this build is all about. So this is Vesta's library. I imagine that it gets a little busy during this time of year, despite it needing to be a little bit calmer. Of course, everybody's just very chaotic, but it's also usually finals time and people need to study and do their homework and pass their exams. So she has a whole area for that right here, a little homework nook. And then she's also got a cute little storybook center too, where she probably reads to children in that rocking chair, telling stories about all sorts of fun fantasy adventures. Every aisle has different seating options, different books, all alphabetized and organized. And this is her little reception desk, where I imagine she checks out books, makes sure they're in good shape, and she's always keeping up with this place. Whenever she's not and she's taking a break, she's probably writing letters. I always adored the letter system, and I used to write Vesta so many letters when I was a kid. Oh my gosh, she used to show them off to other people too, and it would embarrass me, and I'm like, stop, you're like embarrassing me showing everybody my letters, because I'm always like, Vesta, you're my favorite character. And so I imagine that's something she still does, is keep up with her pen pals. And of course we have a lounge in case you just need somewhere warm to take a break from the crazy cold world out there and you just need to escape into a book for a little while. That's exactly what this corner is supposed to be. It's just an environment for learning, an environment for coziness, an environment for peace, and an escape from the chaos. And to me, that is so much better than any ship, any build, any relationship, any holiday, any celebration. Nothing on this earth can beat a good book when you're curled up and it's snowing outside and you are nothing but cozy. I can't even tell you how wonderful that feeling truly is. Here's to everyone who doesn't celebrate any holidays this season. Here's to everyone who is Arrow Ace. I see you, you're loved, and you are not alone. I could go on and on and on about Vesta. She's my girly for life, dude. I love her. She's my BFFL. I love Vesta so much. I've had her since the GameCube. I had her in Wild World, in City Folk. I had her in New Leaf. I had her in every single game you can think of because I love her. There's Nothing more me-coded than a little dot-eyed little creature that has kind of void essence of a body with fluff on it. Like, dude, this is the epitome of my gender and everything I stand for as a human being. I freaking love Vesta, alright? End rant there. And since she has been in my life for so long, it's like I can only help but to like almost project myself in a way onto this character because she did grow up with me. I really freaking love this character. I really identify with this character, which doesn't happen to be too terribly often, but with Vesta, yes, I do. And with New Horizons, her being a normal villager and the normal villagers being more coded like bookworms, oh my god, I feel like it's just even more hints to me that this is an Aero Ace character. Nothing is more Aero Ace than being like, no thanks, I'm just gonna sit down with a book and be cozy. Like, that is just so me-coded. I love that, and I need more Aero Ace characters to relate to, honestly. And I know I'm not alone in this with the rest of the Aero Ace community. And so I wanted to draw her cozying up with a nice book on one of those lovely little stools that are around her library with a big old bookcase, and maybe by candlelight, because nothing is more peak than being by a nice warm candle, cozied up in a little corner and melting away into the world of fantasy through books. Oh my gosh, there's nothing better than that! That's why I titled this build Books Are Better, because nothing's better than books. In my opinion. This is my opinion. And I had to draw her in her scarf. I'm really kind of upset because the newer games made the sheep villagers not wear scarves, but like regular clothes. And I'm just like, no, that was like the fun part about the sheep villagers, is that they would wear scarves instead of like shirts because they're just so poofy. And I thought that was so cute, and I'm so mad they got rid of that, so I'm putting it back. Frick you, New Horizons. I'm putting it back. I don't care. This is my girly Vesta. Oh, just enjoying her book in the cold winter days of the library when things slow down up until after the holidays are over, and then all the kids are rushing in to get their projects done they were supposed to be doing all winter break, and then they waited till the last minute. Like, she's got a busy time ahead of her, but for now, she's taking it slow, page by page, and I love her for this. For the last ships and builds of this episode here, our special episode of Wintry Wonderland celebratory goodness, we have a lovely little coffee shop run by Willow and Bangle. Lesbians unite. We are having a joyous occasion today. Lesbians rise up. Because yes, we have another lesbian couple again here today, celebrating the busiest time of year by giving everybody the little pep in their step that they may need to complete all of their errands. They serve coffee, they serve hot chocolate, they serve tea, anything warm and cozy to keep that bitter cold out and keep the jolly good vibes in. This is the epitome of their establishment that I call Coffee Beans and Toe Beans. Yes, it's Coffee and Toe Beans Cafe. They've got beans galore. So outside is obviously a little seating area. They have some decorations that light up at night and everything. It's just a very simple, very cozy little spot. I imagine this place is busy all year long, but especially during the holidays when people just need a quick little stop in, this is the spot for that. So welcome to that cafe. Oh my goodness, it is bustling, it is loud, it is just probably very, very full and chaotic most of the time, but it's got this very old, eclectic, kind of classy vibe, where I think that's what Willow brings to the table. Willow is very much like an antique girly. She wants it to feel old. She wants it to feel old, but also modern at the same time. So it's got this very awesome blend of two different styles here, where it looks old on the exterior and flooring and everything and furniture-wise, but the menu itself is modern, and all of the technologies and things that help them make their lives easier are also present here, along with some really special stuff in the corner right over here. There are some really awesome creations that Bangle sells in the corner of this little shop too. Bangle is a fursuit creator and a plushie maker, and I imagine that this is kind of where she showcases some of her work and sells adorable little plushes and very awesome custom fursuits. So right when you order, you get that perfect blend. You have the old kind of brick walls with old drywall and wood, but we have this very awesome modern screen, we have modern technology, we have the speed of modern technology, and Bangle is so supportive, even though Bangle probably can't cook to save her life, and she probably stays out of the kitchen and leaves all of that to poor Willow. I think it's just really sweet that Bengal helps run maybe the cash register side of things and keeps up with her little section of the store and helps out with cleaning. They both are very much like handling this 50-50, and I think that's really sweet. Also, sidebar, can we just talk about how adorable the color palette is together? Like, they both have those very bright, cheerful yellows. I just really adore that a lot. I tried to sneak random hints of yellow throughout the build, like this really yellow flower record player and everything. Like, I just really wanted to sneak it in here and there where I could, because they both have that, and I think it's really cool to have it present. When they're not dealing with the crazy chaos of these literal takeout orders and everything on top of the orders that are coming into the store, they are spending most of their time in their cozy little basement, which is what they've turned into their home. So yes, this is where the magic happens. Most of this place is dedicated to Bengal's very difficult hobby, which is fursuit creation and plushie making. Props to everyone that can make those, by the way. They are so difficult, and it is just such an incredible talent and skill that you have to be able to keep up with that stuff. I would be exhausted, but Bengal does it all. So yeah, this is kind of her little studio. This is a very open concept kind of living, since they just turned a basement into essentially a whole house. So they've got their bed wide out in the open, they've got a little bathroom, and they've got a living area and a kitchen. And yes, this is all of Willow's very amazing cooking, very amazing coffee. I imagine she's very, very particular about certain things. But we've got that same blend of the antiques with modern here, because we've got the modern technology for the coffee makers and everything blended with an old-fashioned coffee maker. We have a washing machine that's very modern next to a very old sink. And they've even got the old antique phone by the plant and everything, coupled by the very modern radiator and technology here. So I think this is just their vibes together, blending perfectly. And of course there's lots of different fursuits about and everything, because it is a very long process. So this is probably orders that she gets online, and she's trying to make them custom down here in the basement. The ones she sells in the store are probably just a little more generalized, could be for anyone. I actually headcanon that Claudia is Bengal's mom, so I think that's really cool, is that they have kind of like a long distance mom who is off on a little artsy island running her own little cafe. She's probably really excited that Bengal's getting into it because of Willow. And this is kind of their cozy little living room. Just very open concept again, everything is kind of everywhere. They're a little bit more messy than a lot of other builds of mine. I definitely wanted to feel a little more chaotic, because they run a coffee shop and they're constantly drinking caffeine. You can't tell me these girlies are not like ADHD coded and just have everything everywhere. But it's their chaos. It's managed chaos, and they know where everything is, and it's their way. So it's not messy to them, which is fine. And of course they have a very lovely little bathroom and everything, because I imagine they probably need some self-care after all of that craziness, and this is kind of their spot to get away from everything and say, I'm soaking in the tub and reading a book, I need a break. Because they're both very hardworking, as you can see. Like, they're very, very hardworking individuals. I think that's what brought them together. Maybe Willow had the cafe for a really long time, and Bengal was just a frequent visitor, and that's kind of how they met and fell in love and just took the whole business to the next level. So let's go ahead and draw these girlies, shall we? I went crazy with the pose for Bengal and Willow, dude. It's so cute. I just thought, what would be cuter than if Willow was trying on the different cosplay, the different furry items like tails and ears and paws and collars and all of that for Bengal as like a model to be like, oh, is this the right size? Is it crooked? Is it looking good? And I feel like Bengal would just love this and pick her up off of her little hooves and lift her into the air with a big ol' hug like, oh, you're so cute! Like, I just think they absolutely freaking adore each other and support each other and all of their interests and everything. And like, it's just so sweet! I thought it would be very cheeky to have Willow dress up as a wolf, just because it's the opposite of wolf in sheep's clothing, which has been done before, I know this, but I just think it's such a cute idea and I just had to do it. Because I'd like to think that everybody probably feels that Willow's this soft, shy, quiet girly, but deep down she is just like actually very much like Bengal, where she's just kind of cringe but wants to be free. Like, she isn't showing it because she's just putting on that smug like villager kind of thing, where she's putting on the snooty type where she's like, oh no, I have to have my coffee exactly this way, but deep down she's like, and I want to wear my tail and ears. Like, I just think that's so cute, and she's finally getting to express herself through Bengal, because I feel like Bengal is just loud and proud. Bengal is just like that peppy villager, so Bengal does not care. She is just like, I'm gonna make fursuits. I don't care. I love it. It's so much fun, and I love customizing things for people and making them really happy, and like, she's just such a bouncy ball of sunshine. And Willow's a little more shy, and I love that. That dynamic is so cute. I freaking love my lesbian girlies. Oh my god, dude. And the yellows. The yellows in this piece and a little bit of pink. Oh my gosh, it just ties them together so well. Their little color palettes work together so well. They're freaking adorable together, man. I'm just eating up this color palette. It is just something I probably never would have chosen on my own. Brown, pink, and yellow. But oh my god, it's so cute. I'm in love with this. Down to the fact that their default clothing, like Bengal's dress, matches Willow's eyes. Like, are we joking? They were just like literally made to be together. I do not care. And I also think it's really funny that this episode, I ended up getting to draw 2 tigers and 2 sheep, which is not animals I commonly draw. So that was really awesome because they're really fun to do. And I really love drawing the sheep with all their fluffies and the ram horns and everything. Oh my god, it's just so much fun. I made a cute little quick background kind of resembling the old brick of their old cafe / basement with some snow trickling down. And this is how they turned out, giving a big old hug, supporting each other while they are working on their passions. I love Willow and Bengal, dude. They're the lesbians ever. I love them. That concludes today's ships and builds. I hope you enjoyed all of the wide variety of characters and their stories, along with the art and the in-depth, lovely details of all of their builds. And as always, thanks for being so patient with this series. I am so very nitpicky and very particular about my details with my builds, and that's usually what takes the longest amount of time, so thank you again for your patience. Until next time, have a safe and fun and wonderful holiday season, however you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, then have a lovely day anyways. Until next time, gamers, bye-bye!